Welcome back to Indianapolis Colts Syndicate. We have another training camp update after day 7. This was practice 5, day 7, Colts training camp. And yesterday was the first day of pads, but it was just helmets and shoulder pads. Today was the first day of full pads. Now, as always, we're going to start with the inactives. That's Juju Brents, Julian Blackmon, Darius Rush, Samson Ebicom are the usual names. Jelani Woods got added to that. As we said yesterday, probably just going to be cautionary with him, keep him out. Now, Brent, Blackmon, Ebicom, and Woods are all hamstring injuries, and Darius Rush is out with a shoulder injury. EJ Speed had an undisclosed injury today in practice, and he did not return. So we're going to keep a close eye on that. He's supposed to be in the starting rotation for linebackers this year. So we're going to keep a close eye on that and see exactly what happened with EJ Speed. Okay, but moving on to what happened on the field today. And of course, we're going to start with the quarterbacks. Anthony Richardson being back at practice today, and he took all of the first team reps. Now, I feel like it was to be expected how he performed today. It was, again, first day with full pads on. So he's seeing an actual pass rush. You think about what he did last week with no pads and quarterbacks aren't getting touched. Like, it's not physical, so there's not a real pass rush. Today was the first time he saw a real NFL pass rush. And today was the first time he really had a shaky day of practice. From the reports I've seen, it was more of a timing issue than it was an overall accuracy issue. And again, that's to be expected. With the pass rush coming at him and with everything moving in full speed, I expected him to have timing issues, right? He only played 13 games in college, right? So really, he was just getting used to the speed of the college game. So the speed of the NFL game is going to be even more of a jump. So he's going to have to get used to that. But that's kind of what the coaches and Jim Irsay and Chris Ballard have all been talking about. He's got to get reps to be able to get better. So I think as time goes, that's something that should get better. If it doesn't, we're in trouble. But from everything we've heard, he knows he needs to get better. He's working to get better. The coaches around him, I feel like, are good enough to help him grow and get better. So I expect that to get better, but we will be monitoring that situation going forward. And with the bad, there was some good. He was 5 for 13 today altogether. As a team today was working on tight red zone, which was the 3-yard line. And they were also working on 3rd and short and 3rd down. Their primary formation today was 12 personnel. Mo Alley Cox and Kylan Granson were the 2 tight ends. And if you don't know, 12 personnel means 1 running back, 2 tight ends, which is why Mo Alley Cox and Kylan Granson were the starting tight ends. There were only 2 starting receivers. That's Michael Pittman Jr. and Alec Pierce. So again, Anthony Richardson was 5 for 13 in today's practice. And even though it wasn't great, he did still have some plays that were wowing the crowd. So what we're really going to be looking for is consistency from Anthony Richardson. But then you look at Gardner Minshew. Minshew today, running with the second team, was 9 for 11, with the only receiver having multiple catches in those periods being Brashad Perriman. Now, the first 3 passes for Gardner Minshew in today's practice were during the tight red zone period, which again was at the 3-yard line, and he threw a touchdown on his first 3 passes. Now, again, with the good comes the bad. Minshew threw the first interception that any Colts quarterback had in all of camp today in practice. Now, to bounce off that, he also had an intermediate pass down the left side of the field that was in between 2 guys for a large gain to Brashad Perriman. So with everything that happened today with the quarterbacks, my guess would be Minshew is going to start getting the starting reps. When the team goes back to practice on Thursday, they have an off day on Wednesday. They'll be back at practice on Thursday. My prediction, Minshew's going to be with the starters, and Richardson's going to be with the second team. Minshew was clearly too good against our first team, and Richardson, as it seems, needs some more time to kind of get used to what he's going to see in real time with that first team. So go ahead, get him against the second team. And when he starts lighting up the second team, that's when you go ahead, thrust him into the starting role. If I had to guess, I'd say at this point, you keep Minshew with the starters probably until after the first preseason game when Richardson's able to get some action against another team and some real life action. And then go into that second week with the plan being Richardson's being the starter for preseason week 2 and see how he does in that role. And of course, that's a little bit down the line at this point. We haven't even gotten to the Hall of Fame game, let alone week 1 preseason for everybody. But at this point, that's the course of action I see the Colts taking. And of course, we will continue to monitor how that situation goes. Now, moving on to some of the rest of the team, during one-on-one periods for wide receivers and cornerbacks, Kenny Moore won both his reps against Michael Pittman Jr., which is great news. Kenny Moore continues to show out. As long as he's that guy all season long, good to go. Like Kenny Moore, for all intents and purposes, is back to being the Kenny Moore we know he can be. Darrell Baker Jr. got beat on both of his reps, that being against Ashton Dulin and Malik Turner. This comes just a day after Darrell Baker Jr. had taken advantage of the reps that he was able to get with some of the injuries and kind of showed out a little bit yesterday in practice, but today, not the greatest day for Darrell Baker, at least in one-on-ones. And then Alec Pierce and Josh Downs each won both of their one-on-one reps in today's practice. And up to this point, the offense is completely dominating this young defensive secondary, right? So there's a little bit of worry that's happening, but hopefully once Juju Brents comes back and Darius Rush comes back, hopefully we see the secondary start to pick things up. More notes for the offense. Mike Strachan had the first real standout day for any wide receiver through one-on-one, 7-on-7, and 11-on-11 drills today. He used his size to his advantage, which isn't much of a surprise. What's really going to be what we're looking for with Mike Strachan is whether or not he can be effective in the middle of the field on first and second down. If he's able to be better this year than he has been in the past in that regard, then he might finally be more than a practice squad receiver. He's been a guy that Colts fans have hoping can step up and be a guy for a couple of years, especially with his size. He can be a little bit of a mini Megatron, right? So hopefully he's able to step up. We'll keep an eye on that as well. So I've already mentioned Juju Brents and Darius Rush both being out for the defense right now. And in their place, Dallas Flowers and Darrell Baker Jr. were with the starting unit today as the starting cornerbacks. Nick Cross continues to take reps at starting strong safety with Blackman out. But coach today after practice said that Juju Brents and Julian Blackman will both be back sooner rather than later. Another defensive note is Gernard Avery making plays at practice today. He was a name that people were talking about last season as somebody that maybe could help the pass rush, and that never materialized. But with the first full padded practice today, he took advantage of the physicality, and he had a standout day with a couple of would-be sacks. If he was able to get to the quarterback, he would have had a couple of sacks today with both the first and the second team. Another guy making some noise in the pass rush is a name that we know, Al-Quadin Muhammed, who has had flashes in his career, but has never really broken out, kind of struggled with injury a little bit. But being back in the building, he's starting where he left off. And it looks like he's going to make himself a part of this rotation after having a couple of would-be sacks over the last couple of days of practice. One of those being a sack today that was actually a strip sack of Sam Ehlinger. Okay, and to finish things off here, we're going to have a little special teams note where we're seeing Dallas Flowers, Ashton Dulin, Isaiah McKenzie, and Josh Downs getting reps as kick returners. And Isaiah McKenzie and Josh Downs are current punt return guys. And don't be surprised if Isaiah McKenzie starts the year as the number 1 slot receiver and Josh Downs is the returner. But then at some point, I would expect those roles are going to switch to where you see Josh Downs being the starting slot guy, Isaiah McKenzie being the turn guy by the end of the regular season. That's just the way I think things will go because I think Josh Downs is immensely talented. But with Isaiah McKenzie and his experience, it just makes sense to have him come in, start the year as a slot guy, see what we're going to be. But at some point, Josh Downs and his talent is going to take over. Cream always rises to the top, and that will happen at some point. And when he becomes a starting slot guy, you'll need somebody else to take those return reps so that Josh Downs isn't risking injury in that regard. But that there is all the notes that you need to know about from day 7 of Colts training camp. Again, the team has an off day on Wednesday, but they'll be back on the field Thursday, and we'll have another video covering what they do when it happens. So make sure you subscribe with notifications on. Keep getting updated on all the Colts content you'll ever need, and I'll see you for the next video.